There was one night while I was studying abroad where I finally felt like I was starting to get chosen. I'd been a student studying abroad in Japan for around 2 months, but I really didn't feel like I was connecting that well with many students there. And while I definitely had my group of American friends who always had my back, I really wanted to feel like that I could connect with some of the Japanese students out there. But that didn't come easy for me. The term language barrier exists for a reason. There is a barrier for entering a conversation with someone from a native country if you can't speak their language. I obviously tried for a solid year, but obviously that didn't get me very far, considering that everyone there has spoken the language for 18, 19, 20 years. I was very behind, and that reflected very quickly based on who I was talking to. I could talk conversationally with some of the Japanese students there, but I wasn't really seen as this guy of intrigue because I couldn't really express who I truly was in the language. And fair point, who wants to listen to someone talk about themselves like they're a 5-year-old? But I digress. That feeling really started to hammer me home in quite a way that I didn't think was even possible. I thought there'd be no way that me in particular could ever feel lonely while I was out there. But that feeling definitely hit me rather quickly. It's just like any other day in early November, but it just so happens to be the day that our school's festival is taking place. A place where students work together and create an environment that feels inclusive. You have people from all over the world making their own arts and crafts and their own food that comes from their various country. At a university that specifically caters towards foreign students, this kind of culture festival is a great idea on paper. But something I noticed with that festival was that people just stuck to their groups. People didn't really make a conscious effort to go out and meet new people, per se, which made it a little tougher for me to want to interact with more people because it felt like I was already an outsider to everyone at this point. That feeling, however, was ultimately challenged when two Japanese students who I'd become not necessarily close with, but I'd become familiar with them, they'd choose to engage in a conversation with me that I didn't really feel like I was ready for. I'd only known them for about 2 weeks, but they chose to entrust this 21, almost 22-year-old goober and hear what this guy actually has to say about himself. So there I am, talking to two Japanese girls who I'd known for a couple of weeks. The conversation started just like any other conversation. You talk about how your day is going, you enjoying the festival, standard stuff for the environment. But I just found that naturally, this conversation was actually going very well. I mean, not as in like it was going anywhere, but I was good at just keeping a conversation even though I was struggling with Japanese and the language. You'd think after studying Japanese for 1 to 2 months that you would notice a genuine improvement, and while I definitely think I did get better, I still felt like I was barely better than where I was when I got to the university the first time. But in that one moment, I just felt a serene sense of calm, like I can't describe. It feels corny looking back at it, like at a school festival, sun's going down, yeah, it felt straight out of an anime. They wanted to know what life was like for me, about as run-of-the-mill of an American as it gets. So I entertained them the best I could, using what little Japanese that I was comfortable with, and also using Translate a couple of times to help better express my ideas. I feel like there's a few people in this world who want every conversation to go somewhere, open a door in some capacity. But in that moment, I didn't care about opening any doors. I just wanted to be seen in a country that I had felt not seen. And I was able to do just that. We bounced around topic after topic, what's our favorite fruit? What are part-time jobs like in our country? And just random stuff, even like the cost of living. Topics that definitely don't go together in any capacity, but it felt like in this moment that we could talk about literally anything because it felt like we were just sharing who we were. And then the topic eventually shifted to where one of the girls would whisper to the other and they would talk to me in English like, hey, what's it like having a girlfriend in America? Well, wouldn't you love to know? I honestly can't remember their expressions that they held when I said that I've never had a girlfriend in my life, but I could tell that there was definitely some kind of shock. Maybe one day, Drew. It's okay. I'm still 21, 22 in a week, but I still have all of my 20s I have to live, and I'd love to explore while I still can. But hearing a question like that be asked to me, I couldn't help but giggle a little bit in my mind. And then this conversation would just continue going just like it had prior to that question being asked. It went on for, I would say, a solid 40 minutes in its entirety. Eventually it got to the point where the sun started going down and the light outside started to dim. And then just as I felt like we were about to part ways for the night, say goodbye, this random guy starts throwing these little bear plush toys, I guess, like they're shaped like a bear, kind of like the things that you'd get from an arcade, if you will. I don't really have that much interest in plushies to begin with, but I saw this and I was like, oh wow, this can be something that I can use as kind of like a memento of this conversation. And clearly they saw the exact same thing because they asked if we could take a picture together with us holding these little bears that maybe cost like $2. And it was taking that picture where I felt like, wow, maybe I'm not invisible here after all. I felt pressure from many people asking like, yo, Drew, you should ask someone out while you're out there. And I'm just like, no, I just want to be seen. I don't care about landing a relationship by any means. I just want to feel like I'm not a ghost. And it was that moment specifically for me where I felt like I'd finally achieved that. I felt like I was integrating in the society, even if I was struggling to even put two and two together in terms of my words. And that whole conversation felt kind of surreal to me, and it's always stuck with me because you wouldn't think that someone who comes from the West, from the United States, if you will, you wouldn't think that that American would be able to talk to two Japanese women like nothing is wrong with them. But somehow I defied the odds, I guess? It was quite a surreal feeling because it really feels like this world is divided in more ways than we can possibly imagine. But somehow in that one moment that lasted a solid 40 minutes, I felt like I was talking to someone without any cultural barriers whatsoever. It's crazy what a festival and a college environment can really do to your social skills. And it was that night that my whole study abroad experience really began to bloom into something that I truly felt was special to me. But what still kind of stings to this day is that I wasn't able to hold on to that connection. In that moment, there were no barriers, but in reality, they do exist, and they're quite big. Habits and lifestyles get to the better of us, and naturally people are just going to fade away, whether you like it or not. I had a friend tell me this a long time ago, that you shouldn't ever get fully attached to anyone because everyone is going to leave your life at some point. And they're right. Whether it's your own mother, your close friend, or someone in my case where you had just met 2 weeks ago, they're all gonna leave at some point. But when I say that, I'm not saying you shouldn't take simple conversations for granted, because it's those small conversations that can open a door that you didn't even think existed to begin with. And that conversation was the embodiment of everything that I've talked about, and it's for that reason, it's a conversation that I will never forget. I feel like it's gonna stick with me for as long as I live, and I truly hope that you get to experience something like that yourself one day. If you've made it this far into the video, I'd like to ask you a favor. Comment down below and just share a little bit about yourself. Have you ever experienced something like what I've talked about today? I'd love to get to know each and every one of us at least a tiny bit better. So without further ado, get to it, and I'll see you soon for more expat experiences.